pretty much the only message that I got growing up was don't spend money you don't have.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a good message, but not the whole story. And fortunately, my parents were in a place where they didn't have to spend money they didn't have. Some people are all about risk reward, swinging for the fences. Some people are very disciplined and withdrawn, and like, so there's more than one way.
Right.
But the mass market message is either like the very technical, like Nerd Wallet accounting article. And it was like,
Yeah.
Or it's the day trader on YouTube, like, I will show you how to make $20,000. And it's like, well, I don't want to do that either. Yeah. There's nothing in between.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? What's going on? We got another episode for you. And every single time we do this Foureva Podcast, we give you tips, actionable steps. We give you things that are going to really help you in the position that you're at today. And today is really no exception. As we got an amazing guest. He's a speaker, author, business owner. I would say financial literacy expert, guru. Can we use the word guru?
You can use the word guru. I'll take it.
We got my man, Ben Heaton Juarez.
Brett. So Ben's my brother-in-law.
Oh, sorry, Brett.
We were just talking about Ben.
I'm going to do this again. Hold on. So we got... Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, we're just talking about Ben, and now I just got that stuck in my freaking head.
I was like, he's going to say Ben.
And I think I said everything else right?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brett Heaton Juarez.
3, 2, 1, action.
Oh, man. It's never a dull day on the Foureva Podcast. So, we love to give those, actionable tips. We love to give you guys the resources and the tools to be able to really help you with your life that you're at right now. And today is no exception, as we have Brett Heaton Juarez in the building on the Foureva Podcast. I would say he's a speaker. He's an author, a financial literacy guru.
We can go with, you can say guru.
I can say guru.
You can say guru.
Okay. So I think he's a guru. He's going to give a lot of tips and tricks. His book, Change from Your Dollars, is available on Amazon. Definitely go grab it. So if you hear something impactful here today, definitely go on Amazon and grab his book. But we're about to get into some really interesting conversation because I love financial literacy. I love helping people with this stuff. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out to the studio.
Yeah.
It's great having you here, and you're from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I've lived here since 2008. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm from Chicagoland.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you Packers fan, Bears fan? Where are you?
The Bears are so bad that bit by bit they have lost my allegiance.
Okay. So slowly you're like,
Yeah.
You're going over and putting a cheese head on.
Yeah, maybe not that far, but yeah. I'm pro Packers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a Bucks fan
Yes.
or Bulls fan?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was growing up, it was 90s Bulls, Jordan, Pippen, Rodman.
Yeah,
and
of course.
they were so good. Like, I have a tendency to root for the underdog.
Yeah.
So, like, I was going for like Penny Hardaway and the Magic because I was like, well, the Bulls are going to beat them anyway, so I might as well like. So anyway,
so you're
Bucks,
more of a fan of like
big Giannis fan, big Bucks fan though.
But you like players.
I think I'm more
more player focused and kind of rooting for certain players as they go through their career. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, if you meet people, it's either they're like die hard on the team, or they kind of just follow players and then have interest. Maybe they've seen them from college going to the NBA, like to see where their career goes. That's cool. That's cool. And what's been as a business owner? So let's talk about what you do. What's been one like key takeaway that you can give to the audience, just as a business owner, in almost nearly a decade of running your business?
Yeah, I would say start with the end in mind. Um, Boy, one key takeaway. I'd say
Yeah.
start with the end in mind because if you don't like where you end up, then what was the point of starting?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I got into finance, I was coming from nonprofit youth work.
Okay.
So I used to run a summer camp and, wore a t-shirt to work. And then this was in 2014 when I started in finance.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time it was like you show up at 7:30, you're wearing a tie, it was such a culture shock in
Yeah.
so many ways. But I always wanted to be a coach and a counselor since I was 16. And so that's what allowed me to make the switch successfully. Is like the money, okay, I can learn that. I can learn that. But long-term coaching relationships is what's always gotten me going.
Yeah. And why finance? Let's talk about that. Why? I mean, why do you have a
Yeah.
passion for finance?
No, I laugh because some people really are financial nerds
Yeah.
in a positive way.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people think that that's like I've got the 5 screens, like The Big Short, like and it's like I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I am a relational coach
Okay.
and I help people come to terms with their money and make choices based on context. Like, well, what are you worried about? What are you hopeful for?
Mm-hmm.
I was recruited, so that's the short
Okay.
answer. I met with a financial advisor at a time when I was in my late 20s and knew nothing about anything.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you should do this. And I said, what? And then a year later, I went for it.
And what were you doing before that? So like in your late 20s, what were you doing?
So I was a senior level director for a nonprofit youth program. So
Yeah.
we had like 150 kids ages 9 to 18, 40 staff in our residential summer program. We do events, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. So I was across all that. And what was interesting is that I was getting to a point where I was like, I'm really an administrator
Mhm.
and I want to be a counselor.
Yeah.
So I think that happens to a lot of people is you identify with a profession, but then the better question to ask is, do I actually like what I do on a daily basis?
Right.
You know? And by the end of
It's
that
funny because
time, I was
it would
kind of
be
like,
like a simple question to
yeah,
ask,
yeah,
but not a lot of people do it.
right,
It's like, I want to do this. It's like, well, you're gonna like that
and often that's
daily?
and often that's rooted in like an identity or a status or what they think it's going to be, but that's not what the work is,
Right.
you know?
Right. And what were you doing before the nonprofit, the youth work?
So I had started that organization as a 19-year-old summer camp counselor.
You started it.
Well, I didn't start it, but
Yeah.
I was 19 during their first year of
Oh,
operation.
okay.
And I was
So,
like
yeah, so you
ground
were
floor.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I write about it in the book, that experience. I did a year of AmeriCorps, did
Okay.
Habitat for Humanity, building houses. And I write about that too, and kind of like entitlements and those relationships.
Mm.
And I did that for a year
Okay.
in Seattle.
And what because on this show we love to kind of dive into the backgrounds, right, of what
Mhm.
made us who we are today.
Mhm.
So, what got you into that purpose-driven work early on? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I think back when I was 19,
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't purpose-driven. I mean, I was about creating change, but definitely my mindset wasn't like, yeah, I'm gonna go work here. I'm gonna do this stuff.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is my parents really like instilled a message of fairness in me is like, and I'm grateful that, I didn't lack for anything material when I was growing up,
Mm-hmm.
but I also was never led to believe that I was like special or better than anybody else. And I really got that message
Yeah.
and in it. And so I'm grateful to them. Team sports was part of it.
Okay. What's
And
more?
like soccer, basketball,
Yeah.
lacrosse,
Okay.
because I realized that I was never going to be the most talented player in any of those, but I could coordinate, I could fill gaps,
Mm-hmm.
I could have a leadership role, and that's what kind of made me realize that I really liked coaching people.
Okay, so that was like the first
Probably, yeah,
experience of it, of coaching.
probably,
Kind of
yeah,
being around a team, figuring out how to get from here to there.
yeah, and and I was good at it.
Yeah,
Like I think that's something that sometimes people don't want to say out loud is like
yeah,
if you're good at something, you're way more likely to continue doing it.
yeah, for sure.
And so I was like, oh, people respond. Like I said this, people listened to that feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this is my thing.
And what about then? So let's then fast forward. So what about finance at that time that the financial advisor kind of
Mhm.
recruited you?
Yeah.
What about finance then piqued your interest?
Well, I realized that pretty much the only message that I got growing up was don't spend money you don't have,
Yeah.
right? Which is a good message, but not the whole story. And fortunately, my parents were in a place where they didn't have to spend money they didn't have. Then when I got into the working world, I had some encounters with, the financial system where I was like, oh, maybe there's some education that I need. I also remember talking about college access with teens
Mm-hmm.
in nonprofit work. And I'm standing there on Saturday morning using some financial literacy curriculum. Oh, and this is compound interest. And they're like, this idiot, like if he knew that, like why is he here with us?
Yeah.
Like, like I just
Funny.
wasn't taken seriously. I mean, they're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I kind of got some clues, just like how people at the end of the day, it comes down to money. People would leave our program, if they needed a scholarship.
Yeah.
Can't fault them for that.
Yeah.
We didn't have one.
Mm.
So money's kind of ground zero for a lot of things in like a hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
So I was like, boy, if I could really get to the heart of that, I could really have an influence on people in a positive way.
And then who's your ideal person that you coach? Kind of through that, like, yeah,
Yeah.
what kind of position, what kind of
Sure. Well, now it's probably someone who tends to be more creative,
mm-hmm.
tends to be successful, professionally responsible, but has some baggage with money.
Okay. Yeah.
Or is like, I don't want to just, like
Yeah.
there's something that's not, it's blocking their energy
Okay.
because the typical financial advisor, 95% of their training and what their interest is in money.
Yeah.
And then the 5% is relational. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to flip that on its head and say, like, look, if you can feel good, if you can actually understand what you're doing, you're way more likely to follow through.
Yeah. So businesses,
Yeah,
particularly.
I like
Or can
businesses.
it be individuals
It
as
can be
well?
individuals, yeah. So
Okay.
individuals, families,
Okay.
small businesses. I'm doing more work with nonprofits around
Yeah.
the book
Mm-hmm.
because, like, hey,
Well, it's naturally your space.
yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's cool. That's
Mhm.
cool. And so, why do you think that financial literacy is not often taught in society? It seems like a lot of times the entry to learning about money
Mhm.
is often starting with your family,
Mhm.
depending on what that family dynamic is and what your parents know about money,
Yeah.
and then kind of tell you about stuff.
Mhm.
But why do you think it's not, within the system, as far as just like as you go through schooling, as you go through different programs, I feel like it's out there, but you got to like really look for external ways to
Yeah.
learn about it if you don't have it directly just in your circle of influence in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I know it's a loaded
No,
question, but
no,
that's
no.
the point.
It is a loaded question. So part of it is there's too much money in politics.
Mm-hmm.
A brutal reality is that there is no money in expanding financial literacy. So in terms of a business model, what we often get is someone who represents the financial system goes and does a talk, there's no ongoing relationship, there's no follow through, there's no implementation, there's no accountability or liability. So it's just like, hey, I feel good, I went and did that, they said it was good, and then everyone's back where they started a month from now. Because the compensation in finance, no matter how you slice it, mortgages, investments, anything, it's always proportional to the amount of money going in.
Yeah.
So like when COVID happened, and we had these PPP loans, you remember that?
Yep.
And so like, the LA Lakers get the loan before the mom and pop corner store because 2% of 20 million is a lot more than 2% of 20,000.
Right.
So that's a reality. And I think the other part is that so often it's presented as like, well, if you just the kind of bootstraps thing, it's like, yeah, there's something to be said for grit and hard work. And most people aren't able to budget their way out of poverty.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's like, hey, with your $10 of leftover income, put $2 here and $1 here. It's like, well, that's not going to add up, And then
Talk about the long
and then I'm
game.
short 20. Yeah, so like, yeah, it's that's part of it too. So in the
Yeah.
book, like I talk about 4 behavioral pathways.
Okay.
And that way it's like a young person can be like, well, which one sounds most like me? And I'm going to try to take that pathway. Because when I see people and talk to them confidentially, some people are all about risk reward, swinging for the fences. Some people are very disciplined and withdrawn, and like, so it's there's more than one way.
Right.
But the mass market message is either like the very technical, like nerd wallet accounting
Right.
article. It was like,
Yeah.
Or it's the day trader on YouTube, like, I will
Yeah.
show you how to make $20,000. And
Right,
it's like,
right.
well, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah. That's
Um,
true.
mhm.
That's true. And it's so interesting. That's why I love having, conversations around the financial issue. I mean, because obviously, I'm learning so much as I go,
Mhm.
and just kind of becoming a bookworm
Yeah.
over things. And it's just so interesting. The whole conversation when you saying that there's no money in learning financial literacy, at least as a business, like it's just for me, my mind goes to like it's an economic, it should be economic help for everybody.
Yeah.
The more you learn about money, the more that they're able to make better buying decisions,
Mhm.
which then should fuel the economy of
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
things. But then on the flip side, the less you know, the more that you're willing to spend, and
Mhm.
and kind of just be loose,
Yeah.
with the money. That's super interesting.
Well, and like, I think a lot of people think of finance like ordering anything else, like a point of sale transaction,
Mhm.
when it's really a process.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's hard because the financial system is incentivized to
Mhm.
find someone who's already arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, Jamar, you read all the books. Like, oh, now you have 5 studios. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'd
Yeah.
love to help you out with some of the things that are on your mind. And you try to like swoop in at the end,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to plant and grow and
For sure.
nurture those seeds over time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so and we're just such a fast moving, short attention span. Like that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And what parts do you specialize in? So within financial literacy, just for everybody to understand. So like, I mean, there's tax, there's real estate, there's budgeting,
Yeah.
there's business, there's personal.
Mhm.
You have your Roth IRA
Yeah.
accounts, and like, so like, what do you specialize in? Is it a holistic approach of how you're tackling it, or is it like, hey, I just want to get you in this area?
Yeah, it's definitely holistic.
Okay,
Uh, because coaching is my value proposition, right?
gotcha.
So it's like I'm trying, like, especially with couples, it's really funny because you'll ask a question, be like, "What do you think the biggest concern is right now?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I just feel like we need to get the house done." And the other person's like, it's like they just talking about it. So like,
brought up for the first time.
yeah, right. And so I think like sometimes I tell people like I will help you figure out what to do first
Mhm.
and why, because most people are like, yeah, I generally get the idea,
Yeah.
but it's just not happening. And it's often not happening because the first step is the hardest, or like you're 90% sure. Like there's an anecdote in the book where I'm not handy. Like I can't fix things, right?
Okay.
Not really. Um, and that's like I get that way when I'm entering on a home DIY project where like I'm 90% sure
Yeah.
that if I just take this off, I'll be able to put it back on. And but if I'm wrong, I might really screw something up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how people are with finance. It's like they're almost there, but that last like shred of doubt is holding them back.
Mm.
And so that's why I like holistic planning. So it's like all types of insurance is in the kind of defensive, all types of investments is in the offensive, and then the operating system is cash flow,
Yep.
which includes like borrowing and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So how those things fit together is what I'm into.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so what's something that somebody can do today to, like, whatever their kind of current situation is, what's a good starter, actionable thing that somebody can do? Like, hey, I listened to this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first step
Yeah.
besides hitting you up?
Yeah. Or reading the book.
Or reading the book.
So one step is to just try to become aware of what's actually happening. A lot of
Mhm.
people have never really done like the reflection exercise. So
Okay.
some of the things that you're familiar with being a business owner,
Mhm.
that's applicable to everyone. So a lot of times people be like, well, I have a salary. This is my paycheck. I don't need to pay attention. My company does that. Well, they probably do some things, but maybe not other things.
Mhm.
Things like vision planning.
Mhm.
If like I've never seen a budget work without a compelling goal, because otherwise you're just denying yourself like eating out,
Right. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Like most people don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So having a goal in mind
Mm-hmm.
at the end of why you're budgeting or why you're doing these things, instead of just being like, well, we only have $100 of money to spend for eating out, this week,
Yeah.
and we're at 99,
Yeah.
so we're not going to do that. But you have no path of like, why are you doing it?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're we as people are goal or like we're designed to achieve goals
Mm-hmm.
biologically.
Mm-hmm.
So someone in one of the hardest parts for me is code switching in meetings, right? So I'll talk to someone at 10 a.m. like, oh, we're remodeling the second bathroom and it's not going well and I'm so stressed out. I'll talk to someone at 2. Well, I'm supporting my parents and now, there's an issue with like their legal status and I need to figure, but in their mind, the stress is equal,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it for me is translating where someone is at into some type of tangible, meaningful progress. And that takes time,
Yeah.
you know?
So the first thing I'm hearing is look at where you're going and set a goal.
Short-term retirement is not a compelling goal.
Yeah.
It's way too abstract.
It's way too long.
It's like it's
Especially
too
somebody
long.
starting in their 20s.
Exactly.
It's
It's like,
man,
So
we should be thinking
yeah.
about it, but it's like, man.
So that's boring. Don't do that. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to spend next year? Like, are you going to take a vacation?
Mm-hmm.
If so, what is it going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's $1,000 or 500 or 5,000, like, if you can't backwards plan, you're either not going to have the money or you're going to put it on a credit card, which is going to create issues later.
Yep.
So yeah, like, that's something people can do now. Oh man, I could talk all day, Jamar. You want to ask another question?
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, I think
Ye-
so setting a goal,
Uh-huh.
making sure that you have a good vision of
Mm-hmm.
where you wanna go. It sounds like start the conversation and start learning about this stuff. Sounds like another kind of good first step of like, especially if you have a spouse or you're in a business, like start just spending an hour or two and have those conversations or
Yeah.
focus on what do you want,
Yeah. And
right?
and like have the conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your partner. It could be a best friend
Hmm.
because money has energy.
Yeah.
I describe money throughout the book in terms of water as a
Yeah.
metaphor,
Yeah.
right? You have the puddle that will evaporate if you don't, collect. You've got raging rapids, all these things.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to get easier if you wait. Um, and oftentimes when I meet people, there were things that they could have done upstream that would have a pretty big influence on their present situation, but they put it off.
Ah,
So it was
gotcha.
doable. So like, the example is like if you get on a plane from Milwaukee, you're like, oh, I want to go to the West Coast. We don't
Yeah.
know if it's going to be Seattle or LA.
Yeah.
Well, the longer you wait, the harder it is to turn the plane and the longer it's going to take to get there. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's important to just get going. Like get to the
Mhm.
airport. You have a general direction, so
Yeah.
get going. But you can't wait forever
Yeah.
because then it's really hard to change course.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good tips.
Mhm.
And so let's talk about the book real quick. So
Yeah.
the what was that process like writing the book? I know we were joking off camera that I mean, he's got quite a read, but like it's packed with information, right? And with writing a book, so we have a lot of like entrepreneurs, other
Yeah.
people that are inspiring to be
Mm-hmm.
make sure that doesn't fall. Inspiring to be authors
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So, like, what was that process like writing the book, and how long did it take you?
Yeah. So it took me 7 years. The first four were kind of like, oh, the business is okay. Like I've got an hour as I'm just like over December 26th. I'm like, I'm just gonna write for 4 hours, pound it out. The last 3 years more intentional. When the idea came to me, I knew that I had to do it. I didn't really enjoy writing a book.
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
proud,
funny part
like
about it.
I
Yeah,
believe in it. I'm proud of it. The process, it was so hard.
yeah.
And so my editor was really helpful in helping me remove any deviation into like more technical stuff. So it's
Hmm.
very readable. I mean, it is long. He's not lying,
Hey, it's packed
but
with content,
it's
though.
packed with content. That's
Packed with
right.
content.
But it reads like a conversation. It really moves quickly, and each chapter has a takeaway that you
Oh,
can share. You can digest it. But like people have read it out of order.
hmm,
They've looked at the table of contents. Oh, that's interesting. You can come back to it. Um, I just felt like, in terms of my value proposition, I didn't have a business background.
hmm.
I had a lot of background in education. I got a master's in educational psychology, like how people learn, the way the brain works. I was like, I have to write something that isn't technical because there's more than enough of that already.
Right. Yeah.
And it also puts our relationship with money in the context of our community.
Okay.
We touch on things like this country was built with slave labor.
Hmm.
A lot of people their energy is blocked
Yeah.
because they can't speak to that. And so someone who's hearing someone say, "Oh, just do this and this and this," or someone who's reluctant to invest, like, well,
Yeah.
we have to acknowledge what's already here. We stole land,
Yeah.
right? And generations of immigrants have
Yes.
made this place what it is. And we are a free society. Like when people complain about living here, it's like it could be worse somewhere else. It is
It's very true.
worse in
I
other
always
parts
tell
of the world.
people perspective. Like when you
Totally.
start to travel,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see other ways how things are done, and you just
Yeah.
gain a little bit of appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
It's also because, like, all you've known is whatever the environment that you're seeing
Yeah.
or the people that you're talking to. But when you really start to see what else is out there, you start to say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things we can work on, right?
Right.
But it's not as bad as what I'm thinking, it is, because somebody else is like looking over their shoulder literally every waking second,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And perspective is so key. And like, that's a lot of times what individuals struggle with is like people aren't talking about their money.
Yeah.
So all they know is this little box of my lived experience and maybe my childhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever that was like. And so to talk with someone who's talking with hundreds of other people, it's easy for me to say, well, you're actually on track in this area. I understand you're stressed about it, but this is not bad.
Yeah.
And people
One
are
of
like,
the things I've heard.
"Oh."
Yeah.
I mean, you just see the stress leaving their body. Or, like, have you looked into this? No, what's that? Google it. I think it would work for you. It's like, the internet can only answer the questions you ask.
Oh, for sure.
For
sure. Yeah. And so so now what has the book done for you? Now that it's out, it's go grab a copy.
Yeah.
But now that it's out, what has it done for you? So now people kind of know what you kind of express like, hey, it was kind of it's not as easygoing as people think, whatever writing a book is, or the process is going to be super enjoyable, all that stuff. But you seem, very proud about what you've accomplished. But now what has it created for you?
Yeah. So as a licensed financial planner, there's a lot of liability that comes with that. And so, you have to define, am I working with you or not? We were joking beforehand about like 2021 when crypto was big, like people I'd never met before would call in and be like, should I buy crypto? And I'm like, I don't know anything about you. Have you done any research? Right. So what it's done for me is it's given me a way to speak, and I'm doing workshops with nonprofits around town.
Oh, nice.
The first one I did was with the Brand Labs. Do you know them?
Yeah. Well, is it the Brand Lab or is it
The
Brand Labs?
The Brand Lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kwaku?
Yeah.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out Brand Lab.
Yeah. Shout out Brand Lab. So they're trying to get more representation into an industry that typically doesn't have much BIPOC representation, and they're doing it by like getting actually in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can book me for a talk.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to do some like author chats where I'm unpacking some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because the book is all autobiographical.
Okay.
And a lot of times the barrier to someone who's to an expert is like, okay, that's what they did, but how am I different?
Yeah.
And so, like I had a reader say, well, sounds like you grew up pretty comfortably and I didn't. So I wonder if, but then, when I'm in my 20s, like a lot of other stuff happened.
Yeah.
So not everyone's going to relate to everything. But boy, is it personal. I'm like, boy, it's all out. My wife was like, man, you wrote about that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry. Yeah.
Like,
Okay. It's all or nothing.
I was like, I was in confidence telling you that.
Yeah.
That's in the book.
Yeah.
Hey, it helps people. The more open and transparent you can be, the more, because you never know
There's a lot
who
of
you're going to
mistakes.
connect with.
Yeah. You got to
right?
learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. You can't be all highs and being like, this is what you got to do, blah, blah. You got to show the lows in it. So, yeah. And then, so like as an author, it sounds like, you not only just put out the book, but now you're creating these other moments to also as like extensions of the book, workshops, doing, speaking. That's great.
Yeah. So the challenge in the finance, the personal finance industry as it stands is that in order to earn more, you have to you have to follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dream is to get more entry-level practitioners where I can mentor them. And I've already done a lot of the work to say, hey, this tends to work this way and why. And I've got resources and I've got a book to give them a runway to build their own practice.
Oh, nice.
So that's another thing we can follow up on is like,
nice.
If you're interested in getting into the field, message me.
Yeah.
Because I want to expand horizontally. So, in some ways, my goal is to grow the middle class.
Okay.
And that means lifting people up, but also not chasing high net worth clients, because there's a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've had these moments where boy, that would be great. Like, why can't you just, freaking lighten up and just do things the way that everybody else is doing them? But I just can't,
Yeah.
And so this is what really gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I mean, from your story, kind of even how you got started, it shows, just purpose driven, care about community, care about, kind of the underdogs. You even said it within sports.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, it's within you throughout.
It is.
That's
I can't get rid of it.
You can't hide it.
Sometimes I try. I know I can't
you
get rid of
literally
it.
said it through every piece, and it's all there. So that working with you and definitely reading the book, like you're gonna get that honesty, through it, which is dope, because it's you don't always get that with people. A lot of people put on the facades and just show you all this, the great things with it, but you want somebody that's honest and open, especially with a coach, because coaches have this this thing where they kind of are up on this pedestal, like especially when you first start with the coach,
right?
And then, but the more that they can kind of be there at the ground level with you and share some of the hardships, or be vulnerable, the more it actually builds the trust. Because you're like, oh, like you've gone through this, or you've been to my spot, or you've gone through the, so that way it's easier actually to talk.
No, it is. And that's, I'm convinced that is usually the biggest barrier. It's not that people don't want advice. It's like, why would I get in my car and go and meet with someone who clearly is doing well, and then they'll tell me that I am not doing well, and I'll be embarrassed, and it's like, I don't want to have a long-term relationship with them. So for me, bringing more people into this career, I'm passionate about, because a near peer is the best teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So I used to be able to get through to the 23-year-old, but I'm getting old.
Yeah.
So with every passing year,
you can't be that old though.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Come on.
But with every passing year, it's like I'm more and more like the old, dad guy with the dad energy. And but if you have a young person who's like, hey, I'm going to be with you. Like, I'm just 3 years ahead of your lived experience.
Oh, gotcha.
We come from the same, that's the ideal person.
Yeah.
And
you can have more reach that way.
Exactly.
By growing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So how can people get connected with you? Because every time on this podcast, I always talk about the people that I have on here are reachable.
Yeah.
So don't think that they're just, like you can't talk to these people.
Right.
How can people get connected? How can they reach out?
Yeah. So changefromyourdollars.com is there's some content on the book. You can book me for speaking. You can send me a message directly. That's the main way. The book is available on Amazon. It'll soon be available in some local bookstores. Not yet. I'm working on that.
Okay.
Had to learn a little bit about the publishing game. Follow me on socials. So I'm on LinkedIn primarily, and that's probably the best one.
Cool. Oh, LinkedIn. That's another good way. So if you want to shoot you a DM, hit them up on LinkedIn. Definitely get the book, guys. The book is on Amazon. And so definitely go ahead and grab it there. Hit him up, see if he's got any workshops or anything else that's going on that you can participate in. And just know that these people are reachable. So don't. It's crazy. I mean, people love what they hear, but then they won't take that first step of just what's the action? Okay, reach out, grab the book. There's things that you can do today to change the trajectory of where you're trying to go. So appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
On the podcast and being open, and everybody kind of knows you a little bit better now, because of this, which is dope. If you're listening, definitely subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching, comment, like, share. You guys know the jam by now at the Foureva Podcast. I'm your host, Jamar Jones, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.